Have you ever wondered how someone can make really good money and still feel like they never have enough? Not enough for the bills. Not enough for the future. Not enough to finally breathe. Most of us grow up thinking poverty is simple. You don't have money, so you struggle. And once the money comes in, the struggle just goes away, right? But here's something worth thinking about. There might be a different kind of struggle. One that doesn't show up on a bank statement. One that hides behind a nice car, a bigger house, and a paycheck that looks amazing on paper. Some people call it high-income poverty. And I think there's an old verse in the Bible that explains this better than almost anything I've read. Let's get into it. So here's the verse. It's from Ecclesiastes, chapter 5, verse 10. It says, "Whoever loves money never has enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with their income." This too is meaningless. Now, take a second and really sit with that. This verse isn't saying money is bad. It's not saying having a good income is wrong. That's an important thing to notice, because a lot of people misread this kind of message and think it means don't try to succeed. That's not what's happening here. What this verse seems to be pointing at is something different. It's about what happens when money becomes the thing we lean on for peace. When we expect a bigger paycheck to finally make us feel calm, safe, and complete. And here's the tricky part. The more money someone makes, sometimes the more that feeling of never enough can grow, not shrink. So instead of income solving the problem, income can quietly feed it. And that, from this perspective, might be where this whole trap begins. Let's talk about what this trap can actually look like, because I think a lot of people will recognize pieces of it. Someone works hard. They get a promotion. Maybe a raise. And that feels great because it should. That's a real accomplishment. But then something shifts. The car starts to feel a little outdated, so they upgrade. The apartment starts to feel too small, so they move somewhere bigger. New payments come in. A better phone. A nicer wardrobe. Maybe a new experience or trip that felt earned after all that hard work. None of these choices are terrible on their own. That's worth saying clearly. There's nothing wrong with enjoying nice things. But here's where it can quietly turn into a trap. The income goes up, and the lifestyle goes up right along with it. Sometimes even a little faster. So what's left over at the end of the month can look surprisingly similar to before the raise. Sometimes even tighter. And now, if that income ever dips, even a little, it can feel like everything is at risk. More stress. More pressure. More of that background hum of anxiety that never really goes away. So on paper, this person is doing better than ever. But underneath, they might feel like they're running just to stay in the same place. That's the part this verse seems to be pointing at. It's not really about how much money someone has. It's about whether there's ever a moment where they can say, "This is enough." I want to slow down here for a second, because I think this next part is the real heart of the message. The verse doesn't say the problem is the money itself. It says the person who loves money is never satisfied. So the issue isn't the number in the bank account. It's the relationship someone has with that number. If a person believes the next raise will finally bring peace, and then it doesn't, they might just assume they need one more raise after that. And then one more. The finish line keeps moving. And I think that's one of the most exhausting things a person can experience. Not failure. Not lack. But chasing something that keeps sliding just out of reach, no matter how close they get. This verse suggests that without some kind of inner contentment, no outer amount of money will ever feel like enough. That's just something worth sitting with, even if we don't fully agree with it. It's a perspective, not a rule book. Now let's bring this into today, because I think this shows up more than people realize. Someone gets a raise at work, and pretty quickly, new debt shows up right behind it. A bigger credit line. A new financing plan for furniture or a vehicle. Life starts to look a little more impressive from the outside. Some of this comes from wanting comfort. That's completely human. But some of it might come from something else. A quiet feeling underneath that says, if my life looks successful, then maybe I'll finally feel successful. So spending becomes less about need, and more about trying to settle something on the inside. And by the end of it, income has gone up. But freedom hasn't. If anything, freedom might have gone down, because now there are more payments locking that income in place. Again, this isn't about judging anyone. Almost everyone, myself included, has probably made a purchase at some point hoping it would fix a feeling rather than a need. That's a very normal human thing to do. But it's worth noticing the pattern, because noticing is really the first step toward changing it. So if this is the trap, what does the Bible suggest instead? From this passage, a few ideas seem to stand out. One is living a little below what you earn, instead of right up to the edge of it, or past it. Another is learning to manage desires, instead of letting every desire turn into an instant purchase. Another is seeing money as a tool. Something useful, something helpful, but not something that defines who you are or how much you're worth as a person. And another is learning to plan and think before spending, rather than spending first and figuring out the rest later. There's also this deeper idea running through it. That real contentment doesn't come from stacking up more stuff. It comes from something steadier than that. Whatever a person believes that steady thing is for them, this verse is nudging toward finding it internally, not externally. And maybe the clearest sign of true wealth isn't how much someone can buy. It might be how easily someone can say no to something, without feeling like they're missing out. That's a different kind of rich. Now, let's bring this back to you for a second. Here are a couple of questions worth thinking about. If your income doubled tomorrow, would your life actually feel different? Would you feel more peace, more freedom, more calm? Or would your spending simply double right along with it, leaving you right back where you started, just with bigger numbers? Here's another one. Do you feel like you're in control of your money? Or does it sometimes feel like your money, and the lifestyle attached to it, is quietly steering you? There's no right or wrong answer here. This isn't about guilt. It's simply about awareness. Because once we notice a pattern, we actually get the chance to do something about it. So let's bring this all together. This verse in Ecclesiastes seems to be pointing at something a lot of us feel but rarely say out loud. That high-income poverty isn't really about a lack of money. It's about a lack of satisfaction. If someone never learns to pause and say, "I have enough right now," they may keep chasing more, no matter how high their income climbs. The chase doesn't stop just because the paycheck grows. But there's another side to this too, and I think it's actually really encouraging. This verse isn't just describing a trap. It's pointing toward a different kind of freedom. Not the freedom of having unlimited money, but the freedom of not being controlled by the need for it. That's a freedom that isn't tied to any number at all. So here's a question I'd genuinely love to hear your thoughts on. Do you think poverty starts with income, or does it start with mindset? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I really do read them, and I think this is one of those topics where different perspectives can teach all of us something. If this video gave you something to think about, consider subscribing, because there's more coming. In the next video, we're going to look at another lesser-known verse. One that explains why some people can work their entire lives and still never manage to build anything that lasts. I think you're going to want to see that one. I'll see you in the next video.